TeraFlex's high-angle Rzeppa CV joint for the JL Wrangler and the JT Gladiator is a replacement joint for the factory Rzeppas. It has been engineered to function at increased driveline angles that are created when you lift your vehicle. While it is not necessary to replace the Rzeppa joints to lift your vehicle, you should replace the Rzeppa joints if they begin leaking or if the boot tears. To install the joint, you will need to remove the driveline. In this case, we are replacing the Rzeppa joint on the front driveline, but the process for replacing the Rzeppa joint will be the same for the rear driveline joints. With the driveline on the table, you can discard the bolts that held it to the vehicle. Use a chisel or a flathead screwdriver to remove the end cap. Sometimes the end caps can be pretty stuck on there, so feel free to use some force and rotate the driveline until the end cap pops off. Remove the snap ring on the shaft. Remove the boot clamp. To remove the joint, you can either hit the joint with a hammer, it might come off that way, or you can set the joint on a vise with the driveline hanging freely. Use a punch and hit on the center shaft and the driveline will come right out. Make sure you have someone holding the driveline so it doesn't drop onto the floor. If the boot is still holding onto the shaft, remove the boot. Packing the new joint with grease is the single most important step in the installation. Take the time to do it right. Using the provided grease, squirt a little bit into every ball bearing and work it into the joint. Don't just put it on top. At first the joint will be hard to move around, but as you work more grease into it, it will become easier to move. Once grease has gone into every ball bearing, flip the joint over and do the same thing on the other side. Notice how you have to push up the one side to expose the ball bearings. If you look closely, you can see that the grease has come in from the other side but has not been applied to this side. Shoot the grease into the ball bearings and work it around same as before. This is the only opportunity you will have to put grease into the joint, so keep applying grease and working it in. When you feel you have an excessive amount of grease in the joint, you can set it aside and add a swirl of grease to the inside of the boot. If you have any grease left in the tube, put it onto the joint on the side that would sit flat on a table. The tube of grease should be completely empty before you move on. Dab a little grease inside the boot and slide it onto the shaft. Put the joint onto the shaft. Make sure you have it oriented in the correct direction. Install the new snap ring onto the driveline shaft. Install the provided bolts in pairs with the 2-bolt flange. The flange ensures that the bolts will tighten more evenly. Put the end cap onto the joint. You can give it a few taps with a mallet to keep it on, but don't worry about getting it on all the way. That will happen when you tighten the bolts down on the vehicle. Install the boot clamp. You need to use a CV joint clamp tool to install the CV joint clamp. Reinstall the driveline onto the vehicle. Use the provided tool to make things easier. This tool is really only meant for hand tightening, so if you have a hex driver with a ball end, that will actually work better with an impact gun, which you should only use to run the bolts on. It helps to install both ends of the driveline before you torque the bolts. It helps to install both ends of the driveline before you final tighten everything. It makes it so you don't have to hold it up. If you have any questions about installing the CV joint, please reach out to the TeraFlex customer service team. And if you like this video, please subscribe and stay up to date on new product releases and install videos. Thanks for watching. Use an actual torque wrench to final tighten everything.